My name is Susan Kahlo, and I'm going to be interviewing as a contribution to the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. And today's date is December 5th, 2023. And I am in Hiram, Georgia with Bernard Eveler. And first of all, this has been, let me come into your home is always, for me, that's a big treat to come in and have a chance to meet you and meet your wife and learn about your family. So thank you very much for that and taking the time. So to begin with, if you wouldn't mind, give your full name and if you would spell your name.
Okay. My full name is Bernard Eveler. I prefer to go by Bernie.
Okay.
Eveler is Eveler.
Okay. And can you give me where you grew up?
I grew up in York, Pennsylvania. I was raised by my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of uncles and aunts around, so we had a very tight family that way. I didn't miss a mother and father. I mean, I had mothers and fathers every time I went to a cousin's house.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up there. I ended up eventually 8 years Catholic school. And it was supposed to be 4 years Catholic high school, of which I only did 2. This school's not for me, I'm out of here, I'm gone. I ended up, then got out and I was an usher at a Warner Brothers theater. Back in those days, Warner Brothers actually owned the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 4 theaters in town. Well, I was an usher in a little black suit and brass buttons and everything. And that got old after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, I was almost 17. Now, as a matter of fact, I was 17 years old. I wrecked my car. Now, a teenager, what's the most important thing in their life? Their car. Well, I was devastated. And, well, you know, I didn't have a Foreign Legion to join. So I said, well, you know, I'm going to join the worst thing I can find. How about the Marine Corps?
So was there anyone else in your family that was military?
My uncle was in during the war, during the Second World War.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up to him, and he was he was a very, very grouchy person. But we got along together.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him I'm going to join the Marine Corps. He said to me, in not so many words, Bernard, you are not going to make a pimple on a Marine's you know what. And I said, well, I'm going to show you. And I did. I joined the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
And
what did your grandparents think?
They really.
You didn't need a signature then? Or
Yes, I did. My grandmother was very, how can I put it? She, with her kids and with me, she said, we got to a certain age, and she said, you learn how to fly yourself. I'm not going to. She was content with me joining.
Mm-hmm.
With our first week in boot camp, I said to myself, why did I take my uncle up on that dare? Oh, why am I here? So.
What year was that?
1954 when I went to boot camp. Well, in 1953, I joined a reserve unit. And then in 1954, that's when I wrecked my car.
Oh.
And that's when I said, okay, I'm going to go to regular, which I did. Halfway through boot camp, I got to like it, even in boot camp. But I got discharged and re-enlisted in the regular Marine Corps.
Oh.
So I was only supposed to be doing 2 years. And I ended up re-enlisting for another 4-year-old stretch.
So you went down from Pennsylvania to
Yes.
boot camp. Was that your first time down in
First time,
away from home, kind
I'm
of?
trying to think, no, not really. Used to go to the beaches in Atlantic City and over New Jersey, that was it. But going to Parris Island was my first time going a long ways. And it was an adventure. I got to go by train all the way down. And I don't know, unless you've been there, it's very hard to explain it. Like I said, I don't know why, the way I was treated, you know, the way they treat recruits, I don't know why I had the guts to re-enlist in the regulars, but I did, and I'm glad I did.
Wow. Did you know anybody else there, or did you make friends while you were in boot camp?
I enlisted with a friend of mine. We used to hang out together. And unfortunately, when we got to boot camp, when we got down there, we got separated. He went to one platoon and I went to another. And we didn't see each other until graduation. And we both graduated the same day. Went home on leave. We both got gung-ho while we were there and bought dress blues. They didn't issue dress blues. But we bought a set of dress blues so that we could wear when we got home and show off. And he had a sister that wouldn't quit. And we went there, and there was a big hotel in town. It's called the Yorktown Hotel. You know, that's where all the companies went. And there was a party going on, and his sister asked me to be her date. I said, "Oh, are you kidding?" I looked at yeah, I never will remember. I never will forget that. As long as I live, here I am in dress blues, standing in remember the dance, the bunny hop?
Yes.
I'm here in the bunny hop, in my dress blues, running around the parade dance floor.
Oh, that's funny.
But,
What was going? And so in the time, because this was post Korea, right? So there was really nothing at the time. You weren't concerned, or what was? Is there anything going
I
on
was
in the
supposed
US?
to go to Korea.
That's what I was going to ask. What was?
But later on, after boot camp, I went to Camp Pendleton for Infantry Training Regiment. They call it ITR. And they sent me there instead of Camp Lejeune because I was going to be made a machine gunner and go to Korea. Well, while I was waiting to go to school for the class to start, they signed the Korean armistice.
Okay.
So there was no need for me in Korea.
All right. No, that just clears that by because I knew that period of time.
So I stayed Camp Pendleton. I still didn't want to be a machine gunner. It's a long story, but I ended up getting my MOS changed to a supply MOS and spent the rest of my career with a supply MOS. After ITR, I got stationed as part of the Marine base at Camp Pendleton. I was with their base communications supply office. And that got boring after a while, really. So I said, okay, we had what they call an AA form, Administrative Action Form. I filled one out. I said, I want to go on sea duty. Back then, they had a Marine Detachment on aircraft carriers, battleships, and big cruisers. Pretty good sized detachment. Well, I wanted to do that. And then they also had the embassy duty that I thought, well, I'll put my name in for that. What I did was, in essence, I put my name in for everything I could just to change my life and get out of the rut I was in. Well, one day I'm in my office at the Base Communications Supply Office, and the supply officer calls me in. He says, I just got a phone call there, Corporal Eveler. They want to see you up in G2. Well, G2 is the intelligence section of the General Staff. I thought, Well, G2, what do they want with me? G2, I mean, everything's going through my mind. I couldn't think of anything bad I did or anything like that.
Yeah.
But what it was, I went up there and whoever I spoke to up there told me the reason you're here is I'll let you know that you've been selected to go to school for embassy duty, and we have to start a background check on you because we had to be cleared for top secret. So that's why I was there. And weeks later, I'm on an airplane heading to Washington, D.C. to go to school.
Wow.
And that was in 1956. February 56 I started school. And April the 29th, I was on an airplane heading to Turkey, where I ended up.
What was the embassy training like?
How to protect classified materials. There was firefighting. We learned how to fight fires. We learned how to recognize if we were being breached by somebody or something. They showed us things that, tricky things that Russians would do. They had one, for example, they had a seal of the State Department, something like my Marine Corps seal, and the USSR, I don't know how they did it, but they had a microphone embedded in that. And here that was in an ambassador's office. And everything that was said in that office was going out to the Russians. And they taught us how to look for things like that. They taught us how to take telephones apart and make sure they weren't bugged. Yeah. So at nighttime, I'd be on duty for 12 hours. I'd make my rounds, I'd take telephones apart, I'd pick people's ink blotters up off of their desk to see if they had the combination to their safe hid under there, because people would do that.
Yeah.
And that's basically what we learned in school. How to keep your eyes open to keep things safe. Now, as I told you before, and a lot of people don't realize it, but a Marine embassy guard, his first duty, beyond all else, is safeguarding classified material. Now, people think that's a little backwards, because safeguarding lives, believe it or not, comes after that. And then after that is safeguarding property. So,
how many Marines would be assigned to an embassy?
well, it depends. Like, for example, Parris had 2 full platoons. Where I was at, we had 3 watchstanders and the command and the detachment commander. And he would take our duty on the weekends, so that we did have some free time. But the 3 of us, fortunately, embassy duty then was not like it is now. Now it's almost like being on a police SWAT team. And that's how bad it is. Back then, when the receptionist left at 5 o'clock, we would take over. And we'd lock everything up, and we actually sat at the receptionist's desk until 8 o'clock in the morning when she came in, and we'd leave. So it wasn't 24 hours a day like it is now. It was a great life. It was a super life.
I've heard it's good.
Great life.
So where was your first place you went?
Istanbul.
Okay.
And I know nobody here can see it. That white building right there, that mansion, that's where I lived.
Oh.
The consul general was in there, and we lived on the top floor.
Wow.
So,
maybe at the end of this, I'll use my cameras.
I met my wife, Dina, there. We weren't allowed to get married. We had to wait until our last 2 weeks to be able to get married, which I did. And boy, as soon as I had 2 weeks going, boop, we got married, and pretty soon. And then when I was there, I re-enlisted again. My enlistment was up. I re-enlisted. And they had given me a choice. They said, if you re-enlist, I'll give you your choice of where you want to go. So I said, I want to go to the Marine Barracks London. I want to go to Marine Barracks Rome. Or I want to go to Marine Barracks, I forget exactly where the other one was. Well, it ended up, they sent me to the Marine Barracks in Morocco. I never knew there was one there. But it was a great life. And
Yeah.
I went, and about a month later, my wife followed me. She didn't go with me, I went by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and got things moving as far as housing and stuff like that. And then she, about a month later, she came, and we started housekeeping and living in Morocco for...
So what did your duty entail being at a Marine barracks?
I was in the supply section.
Okay.
That was a big Marine barracks. We had 3 regular-sized companies. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of going on there, the big supply section. And, we were the only one within thousands of miles where you could get uniforms, and Marines get uniforms. They would come from Europe down to us to get the uniforms. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, I spent...
But you enjoyed Morocco?
We did. My first daughter was born there.
Oh. What was her name? What is
Nyla.
Nyla, okay.
Well, she's named after my sister-in-law, and all my wife and all her siblings, they all have Muslim names. Nyla and Farouk and Dina, of course, is an Arabic name. Mm-hmm. When I say Muslim, I should say Arabic. Mm-hmm. But that was from their Turkic or the Tartar heritage, where that came from. Okay. But anyhow, I always used to joke with my daughter. She's passed away last year. But I always used to joke with her when people start yakking about where they come from, just tell them that you are a real African American. Not a pretend. I mean, let's face it, most of them, they say they're African American, but they're not. Wouldn't know Africa if it come up and slapped them in the face. But anyhow, we just enjoyed the heck out of it. Left Morocco, got orders to the Marine Corps Air Station in Beaufort, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Actually to the Marine Group 32, Marine Air Group 32. And there I was a supply clerk in that outfit. And I hated the air wing. I just despised the air wing. And coming from a Marine barracks, which is spit and polish and all that, and then going to a Marine air wing, which they're kind of lax on discipline and looks and dress and all that. They're more like the Air Force than they are Marines. Well, that was a cultural shock coming from Marine barracks going to there. So once again, I'm sitting here filling out AA forms to go someplace besides there. So, right across the bay, 10-15 minute drive is Parris Island. Then they send me over to DI school. So I did get out of the air wing, out of the frying pan right into the fire.
About what year was this?
That was 1961. I did that.
Uh-huh.
1960, I went to drill instructor school. Eventually, I was a drill instructor in the 2nd Recruit Training Battalion. And I stayed there for my 2-year tour, at which time I got transferred to 2nd Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment, part of the 1st Marine Division in Camp Pendleton. Went out there, trained with them for a year and a half, and then went to Okinawa. And back in those days, they would take one of the battalions from the United States and send them to to Vietnam, and they call them transplacement battalions. The one that was in Vietnam would come back and they'd come back to the States and start training all over again, a new training cycle. And they just kept switching around. So as a result of that, when I went to Vietnam, I was in 3rd Battalion, 9th Marines.
So you're back doing, you're not a DI any longer?
No, not a DI.
You're not doing supply again?
Yes, back in supply. And I did 13 months in Vietnam. Again, I was part of FSG. It was the big logistic organization that took care of all the Marines in country. And from there, I transferred back to the United States, and I went on I&I duty. I&I duty, I&I stands for Inspector Instructor. They're the ones who teach the reserves. So I went to the Reserve Training Center in Port Hueneme, California, and I stayed there for 3 years, training reserves. And that's probably one of the better duty stations that I had. And while I was there, I got commissioned under the Outstanding Leadership program that they had for commissioning a prior enlisted. And I got commissioned. And so after that, within 2 months after my commissioning, I got orders to 29 Palms. And I was the supply officer of a missile battalion in 29 Palms.
Was your family traveling with you during this time?
Absolutely, yeah. The only place my family did not go is Vietnam. Well, we were in 29 Palms. Good story. We got there late at night, and I had gone prior to bringing the whole family down, and so I made arrangements for the house and everything like that. And we got there late at night, and it was just too late to do anything. So we stopped and checked into a motel in town, in the city of 29 Palms. Got up in the morning, walked outside. My wife walked outside, looked around at the sand and the mountains and the desert, and started bawling. I said, oh my gosh, this is going to be like this for 2 years?
And it was hot.
And hot. Well, you know what? It was the most fun we've ever had in 2 years. We just enjoyed it. The kids enjoyed it. They'd go up in the desert and catch horny toads and dig down the sand, and I'd have to keep them away from the sidewinder rattlesnakes. They wanted to play with them too if they could.
Oh well.
And
so you had more. So now you had, how many children did you have at this time?
Now I had 4.
Oh, you had 4. Okay, gotta name them. Let's get.
Okay, the oldest one was Nyla. She's the one that passed away.
Okay.
And I had Cameron, who goes by Ron. And I had David. And the last one was Darlene. She was the baby. She was a oops. Yeah.
But they had fun. That's good.
And so the 29 Palms, I just can't say it. People say, oh, good, I don't want to go back there. I don't like. As a family, that's probably the best place to be. It's better than any place that we were as a family.
Good to hear. I haven't heard that, of course.
No, it was. But anyhow, while we were there, toward the end of my 2 years, the war started winding down in Vietnam, and they didn't really have enough justification to keep a lot of temporary officers on board. So they reverted me, took away my bars, and went back to a master sergeant. which was kind of ironic because here I was, a supply officer of about, I'd say easily $18 million worth of goods that I was what they call responsible officer. And I lose my commission. That sounds bad, but that's just the way it was. I was not unique in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got stationed at the Marine Barracks, Treasure Island, which is that little island right in the bay between San Francisco and Oakland.
Oh.
And they had a big Marine barracks, a very huge Marine barracks there. I got stationed there as a master sergeant now. The day I reported in, the commanding officer told me, and this was bad, the commanding officer said, Top, that's what they call a master sergeant, Top, we have a real loser as a supply officer. And he was a captain, a commissioned officer. He said, you're going to go over and relieve him. Well, that was kind of hard and embarrassing to do. Here I am, master sergeant, relieving him as a supply officer. But the ironic part about it was, here I get reverted, I lose my commission, and usually normally it's a commissioned officer who is a supply officer. And I lose mine, and here they put me in that spot, in that chair anyhow, as a master sergeant. So I was a little sore, I might say, at the whole thing. And I knew that Treasure Island was going to be my twilight tour. Because and that's why I especially picked that and asked for it, and they gave it to me. Fortunately, there was a spot open for me. And because I wanted to get it there so that she wanted to be near her family my wife, wanted to be near her family who lived in Oakland. And so I said, well, I retire from the Marine Corps at Treasure Island, and we can just live in Oakland, in the Bay Area, which is how it worked out. There's so many side stories here that, just before I retired, I didn't have all the Marines for my section that I needed. We were very short-handed. And like I said, it was quite a big Marine barracks there. And we really needed people, more people.
At Treasure Island.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was on the telephone to the supply monitor at headquarters in Washington. And I'm asking, where are my troops that you promised me? I said, I haven't seen them. And they gave me the runaround. Oh, they're on the way, they're here, blah, 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 but making excuses. And I said, well, okay, I'll just hold my breath until they get here. And I started to hang up, and he said, he said, wait a minute, Top, I got something for you. I said, yeah, what's that? He says, I got orders here for you for Westpac. Westpac has code for Vietnam. Westpac meaning Western Pacific. And I said, whoa, no. I hung the phone up, ran across the street to my company commander's office. I said, we have a problem, sir, or I have a problem, sir. I says, I want to retire here. And once you have orders to go, like if I had those orders in my hand at that moment, there's no way I could have refused them. Even though I wanted to get out, I couldn't. But if you had already submitted your letter of intent to retire, then you were safe. And you say, oh, I'm not going to Vietnam. You see that? I'm retired. Well, I didn't have that letter. My wonderful commanding officer, I feel bad for the way I treated him during the World Series games out there with the A's. He lost every one of my bets, every one of his bets. Had to buy me dinner every year. But he had one of his clerks type up a letter of intent to retire, and he backdated it 5 months prior to that. And then he endorsed it saying it was mislaid, misfiled. So I did have a letter of intent to retire. Anyhow, that's what kept me
Are
from
you
going
sure
back to
you wouldn't
Vietnam.
open their mouth with this?
Yeah, I was gonna say for the record, that's
So
what are they gonna do?
the statute of limitations is up. No problem.
Oh my gosh. During all the, even going back from when you left Pennsylvania, did you write? Did you stay in touch with family back home?
Oh, sure, absolutely, yeah.
And they wrote a lot?
Yes.
Because you did a lot of moving around. I was just wondering
Yes,
how
yes.
communication was.
Well, when I got married, of course they all knew I told them I was getting married. And they just could not wait for me to come home with my new bride. And well, I came home not only with my new bride, but with a little girl along with her. And, they were just in hog heaven. My aunt was a beautician, of which my daughter took up that trade also later. But she was a beautician, and she just took to Nyla, or to Dina. She just took to her and took her under her wings. And of course, Dina's first time in the United States, she was...
So I was wondering, at what period were you able to get away to come back with after your marriage? Because you were in you got married in Turkey.
Got married in Turkey, spent 2.5 years in Morocco, and then came to the United States.
So they didn't get to meet
They
your
didn't
wife
get
Dina
to meet her
until
until 1960.
Okay.
In fact, we came back from Morocco by ship. We went up to Rota, Spain, and took a ship across to Army Depot in Brooklyn, New York. And then, fortunately, in the meantime, I had gone to England and bought a car, and as luck would have it, the car was sitting there in Brooklyn when we got off the ship. So I drove from Brooklyn down to York, Pennsylvania, which wasn't all that far to drive. And that's when they met her. And so, I remember the night we drove in to home, to my house, my grandmother's house. I called my cousin up who lived across the street. It was more like a sister than a cousin. That's how close we were.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I didn't even have the phone hung up, and she come dashing in the front door. Where is she? Where is she? I want to see her. Come here. They stayed in touch. One thing I got to say, we lost our first boy, our firstborn. He was, 3 months old, something like that.
Oh dear.
And we lost him. And
Where
my
was
aunt
that?
across the street, she was the one that, when his remains were shipped, the Navy shipped his remains back to the States, and she took care of all the burial arrangements and all that. So.
Was that when you were in Turkey or
Morocco.
in Morocco?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Those are difficult things that you still went through. My gosh.
Yeah, well.
At a distance.
Yeah, but the good things outclass the bad ones.
Yeah.
There's so many things. Something worthwhile, and something a story I like to tell, and I used to the daughter who died, Nyla, she was like 3 years old, 4 maybe. She used to love those parades we'd have in graduation. She just loved it. She loved our music. And I'm marching down the parade in review, passing in review. Now keep in mind, we had back then the commanding general was General Murray, who was a big hero as a regimental commander or battalion commander, I forget which, in Korea. And you never see him crack a smile or anything. You would think he was made out of granite. Well, he was reviewing the parade as a commanding officer of Parris Island, a commanding general of Parris Island, and we're marching down, passing review, I'm passing the stand, I'm marching with my sword there in my hand, and I hear this, "That's my daddy, that's my daddy, that's my daddy." I looked out the corner of my eye, and I hear this little tot running across the parade field coming out to me. She jumped down.
Oh my gosh, that's precious.
And here she is, my wife's out there behind her, just chasing after her, bringing her back. And we're only, I don't think we're 50 feet away from where the general was standing. Now, he saw all that commotion. I thought to myself, oh Lord, Eveler, your career has just come to an end. And as we marched by, I did an eyes right and I looked over there, and he was just smirking. First time I've ever seen a smirk on his face at all.
She softened him up.
Yeah, he got a kick out of it.
That's a good story. That's sweet. That's sweet.
Yeah, those are the things I remember about the Marine Corps. I don't remember the bad things.
Well, that's good. What about your uncle? Would you see him when you were actually in the Marines?
Yeah. Oh, he was so proud of me.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
he
was
very
so proud. And his 50th anniversary. Oh, I was retired from the Marine Corps and living in California, but I went back to Pennsylvania for his 50th wedding anniversary. Mm-hmm. And I know how he felt about the Marines. He only had 3 years in, but he lived and breathed Marine Corps, just like I do. And I took my dress blues with me, and I wore them. And I ended up being in the so-called wedding party because the guy who was in it had passed away. So, along with my aunt, who was also living in California, I sat at the head table. I was part of the wedding party. And boy, my uncle kept looking over there. Oh, he was so proud of me, especially with those shiny bars on my shoulders and everything.
I can only imagine.
As a matter of fact, the funny part about it was he said, this was during the gab fest that went on between the head table and the guests. He said, and I'm so proud of Bernard here. Look at those beautiful brown shiny lieutenant bars. I said, Uncle Bud, if you look again, they're silver on their first lieutenant bars. He said, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it sounds like a lot of positive things went on. And your kids then must have been in different schools. They moved around.
Yeah, they did. They went to many, many schools. Mm-hmm. My youngest daughter, she's the only one. She went all 3 schools. I don't know what they call them, but all 3 schools. She walked to them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was great.
So anyhow, it's...
And what about the story you have to tell about from...
okay. Susan just pointed out a picture that I keep as a platoon I had as a drill instructor. One of the junior drill instructors was a corporal, Corporal Rollins. You may have heard of him. He's one that does 8,000 sit-ups at a time. Anyhow, I went back years and years and years later. I went back to a DI reunion, and I didn't know it. That he hadn't even made. I lost track. I didn't even know. I had no clue that he was even existed. But he was when I met him at that reunion, he's a major general. And he could have knocked me over with a feather. And so I could, after the graduation parade, we went across the street having a tour of an open house in the barracks. Well, they were holding everybody up at the door to the barracks. I want to say the hatch because that's what we were taught. Mm-hmm. And we were holding it up because they said the general was going to be the first one to go through. So I was standing there with my wife and my 2 daughters, grown daughters. And General Rollins comes walking upstairs, and he's dressed blues because he just got done reviewing the parade. And I stuck my hand out to him. I says, "Congratulations, Corporal Rollins. I'm glad to see you made something of yourself." And you could have heard a pin drop, and my two girls just wanted to shrivel up and disappear. And he looked at me. He looked, and finally it dawned on him who he recognized me after all these years. "You son of a so-and-so."
You can say it.
And it was fun. It was a fun time.
So he did recognize you.
Oh yeah, finally he recognized me. Yeah.
Oh, what a great story. That's a
Yeah.
great story.
Yeah.
But you run into somebody that years later,
Yeah, it's just been that way. It's I still have good friends that join the reserves with me, and we get up to Pennsylvania occasionally and get to see him. And he and I were ushers together at the Warner Brothers thing I told you about.
he joined the Marines as well.
He joined the reserves. He never did,
Oh, okay.
he never went on active duty. There were three of us. He and the one who went with me, Bob Everhart, and myself. Well, Bob and I, we were the ones who went on active duty. And that was cool too, because Bob, he came out, got out of boot camp, and I don't recall where he went, but wherever it was, he wasn't happy. He was not happy at all. So when his 2 years were up, he got out of the Marine Corps and joined the Air Force. I laughed at him, because he joined the Air Force, and they stuck him on the top of a mountain someplace in Japan in a communication center, and he never even got down into town. And he thought he was going to get out of boring jobs and things like that. Out of the frying pan into the fire for him.
So what other? So have you stayed involved with Marines or what? When you got out?
For the first 10 years or so, no. I had nothing to do with them. I was busy making a second career.
What was your second career?
I was a materials manager at a lighting manufacturer.
So you still carried on with the type of work you were
Yeah, right. As a matter of fact, you go to this day, you go to any parking lot at Walmart's and you're going to see our lights because we had a national account with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then along with that, I volunteered. I was a reserve deputy sheriff for 21 years.
Where were you settled? Where was this?
City called San Ramon, California. It was east of the Oakland Hills. So I just over the hills and across the bay, and I'd be in San Francisco. So it was, and that was, like I said, 10 years. I never ever gave a Marine Corps a thought. And then one day, I don't know if it was a newspaper article or I don't know where I saw it, but I saw something. It's called the Mustang Association. Well, a Mustang in that context is a Navy and the Marine Corps do it. I don't know if the Army does. I don't think they do, but Navy and Marine Corps enlisted to an officer, you are called Mustang officers. And you look, I got Mustangs, and you'll see them all over the place here. Anyhow, I saw that, and I looked into that, and lo and behold, I ended up joining them. Then I ended up joining the Marine Embassy Guard Association because, I was an embassy guard. And then, I don't know how I found out about it, but I found out about the Marine Corps League. Well now, shoot, you might as well put me back in the uniform by now because there were Marines all over the place. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, spent 31 years in California and then moved to Beaufort. My wife and I packed up and moved to Beaufort in 2003. And of course, being in Beaufort, I was at Parris Island. So from then on, it was Marine Green. Every place I turned, wherever I turned around, it was Marines.
Have you interacted with younger, like post 9/11 Marines?
Oh
or
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
What do you have observed or differences in either the Marine preparation or?
Well, you put me on the spot.
I
there,
just was
Dad.
thinking,
You
if
put
I'm
me on the
putting you
spot
on the
there,
spot.
No, because this is what any Marine watching this, he's going to know. You weren't a Marine. I was a Marine. Well, you were nothing now compared to what we did back then. And that's the way it was. And I have a hard time. I have a hard time when I'm on Parris Island watching those DIs today. I'm sitting to myself, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. That's not the way it's done. But you know, I can't. It's not my place to say anything to them. So I keep my mouth shut.
Well, I put you on the spot, so it's now on the record.
But
so we bleep it.
I worked at the gift shop at the museum, Parris Island Museum, and I used to stand there looking out the window and marching down the street. There would come a platoon of male recruits, and then going the other way would be a platoon of female recruits. My wife said I have something against female Marines. Well, I don't, because my friend and I always commented about every time those platoons marched by, the females outmarched those men by, I don't know, just by
What way?
degrees.
The demeanor or?
The demeanor, they're in step, I mean perfectly in step, just absolutely
Sharp.
Marine perfect, that's all I can say. Where a male recruit platoon would come by, and I'd see recruits in the backyard doing, and that's a no-no, but that's what they were doing. Well, as my friend and I used to comment, I loved to go out there and tell that drill instructor how to do it. Because we were probably lying or forgot, but we said, my recruits never would have done something like that. And so, but anyhow, like I say, you know, even after I got out, I might as well have worn a uniform because I was.
So what are you doing? What kind of things are you doing
Now? Absolutely nothing.
Well, you are with Marines. What I mean, you
Well,
are.
well,
Stay involved.
I started when I was in the Marine Corps League in California. They asked me to take over doing the newsletter. Well, I started that there. I did that for about 3 years. And when I moved to Beaufort, we joined the Marine Corps League there. And we had just started the detachment in Beaufort. And I started a newsletter there. And now I'm doing a newsletter for this detachment. In fact, when I got here, they didn't have a newsletter. Last November, I approached the detachment commandant and I says, you need a newsletter, I'm going to put one out. You know, like, take it or leave it, because I'm going to do it anyhow. Well, it turned out everybody likes
What's it
the
called?
newsletter. This newsletter is called Listen Up. Doug Tossie is the one who suggested that name. The one in Beaufort, it was called the Sand Flea Review. And you know the sand fleas from there. So, but I like, it keeps me busy, keeps me sharp. If I'm not writing something of my own experience, I'm doing a lot of research, looking for things that are put in here that are of meaning and information for Marines who read it. Then I also do a newsletter for the Marine Officers Association of America. I joined them while I was in Beaufort. So because I was a commissioned officer, I am entitled to be part of that outfit. And I started doing a newsletter for them. Fortunately, that's only a quarterly issue, so I don't have to do it every month.
Do you stay in touch? Do you ever go back to Beaufort? Are you in touch with anybody?
Oh, I'm in touch. I'm in touch all the time, yes. But no, I don't. I have not been back since we've been here. We've been here exactly a year last month.
Oh, okay. And your children, were they influenced by the travel that you did? Are they pretty much homebodies now, or did they travel because
No,
they were born in different places?
No.
Excuse me, what about Ron?
Well, I got one boy who he loves cruising. He gets off one ship and gets on another one.
He's got so much.
Yeah, that's okay.
He gets free cruises.
Yeah, that's okay. It's all right. We've got this is Dina, the wife, in the background, adding a little bit of correction, which is fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Because I mean, and that's the other thing. Because you've been married, your wife has been through all of these places and all of these assignments.
Yep.
Has to be quite a trooper.
It's only 53. Oh boy. 5 years of my career that she was not part of. So 15 years plus that she was, as far as the Marine Corps goes, she was part of. It's 65 years all told.
Like I told you, that's the second part. We need to sit down with your wife and get her fascinating story as well.
I should just tell you what a great guy I am.
Well, I might interview her when you're not around. No, I mean, it sounds like a lot of variety, a lot of different things that you did.
I did a lot of things. Like, I'm not your stereotypical Marine. I'm not charging over hills. I didn't charge over hills. One thing I got shot at in Vietnam. When I was there, I was, from my supply unit, I was a liaison with the battalion supply units. So every now and then I'd have to get in a Jeep and go out to wherever the battalions were and, find out what they needed. Get face to face when you really talk to those people. We didn't have internet and stuff like that. Well, I was going out to an outfit that passed Marble Mountain. I just got crossing a bridge and going over a little stream by Marble Mountain, and all of a sudden we're getting shot at. Well, it was just myself and my shotgun, he was a guy who rode with me. We never went sync with one person, and we just jumped under the Jeep. I mean, we were outnumbered by I don't know how many, but the rounds were coming out of the bush, and just off to our left a little bit was a artillery outfit, and they had a reaction platoon. Well, they heard the shooting, so they got their gear on, their helmets and everything, and they came running. Well, the leader of that reaction platoon, unbeknownst to me, was my next door neighbor where I lived in the trailer park in 29 at Camp Pendleton. And he says, "Bernie, if I'd known it was you, I'd let those VC get you." And the reason he did that is because my car was not working. She borrowed their car. He was already overseas. He was already in Vietnam. Dina borrowed their car to go to the groceries. And she came back, and instead of hitting the brake, she hit the accelerator, hit the back of their trailer, knocked it off the blocks, smashed up his front of his car, and blah, 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 so and so and so. So that was the first time we met after that.
What a coincidence.
That's why he said, "I should have let him keep you."
So they engaged with the people
well, as soon as they showed up, VC took off. They
could have gone another
disappeared.
way.
They disappeared. But anyhow, that was my only time I ever got shot at, and that ended up being funny as heck.
Yeah. No, you're fortunate because you've been in places
yeah.
that could have gone a whole nother way.
Yeah.
That was
scary. Huh?
Yeah, it can be very scary, and it's it is different. Like you said, your Marine journey is, but everyone is different. There were people along with you, so it's good to hear some different experiences and how it went and how you got out of one thing into another.
Well, sometime we have to talk about my time as a reserve deputy sheriff. That was some some weird stuff going
In
on
South
there.
Carolina. That was
No, that was in California.
Oh, okay.
That was in California. That's a story
tell
for
it,
another
get-
time.
Why don't we wrap up with that?
Yeah.
We could wrap up. If you want to throw in one. If not, we can do it another time. But you could throw in
Well,
one.
this is a real quick one then.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was driving in a city called Dublin, which is right by, it was an unincorporated city, so it was our duty to patrol that as a sheriff's department. Well, we get a call over the radio that up such and such a street, there was a report of a man walking up and down the street naked. And I said, "Lou," I said, "I'll take it." And we also had a female on duty that day. She was in the patrol car, but she was in the other part of town. And we all, when that radio call went out, everybody that had a patrol car was heading that way. They wanted to see what this was all about. And I got there first, and there he was. Put the spotlight on, and there he was, just standing there naked as the day he was born. And by this time, this female deputy comes driving up. She says, "I don't believe this." I don't believe this. I said, "Where are your clothes?" He says, "I'm from Venus. We don't wear clothes on Venus." I said, "Wow, you're on Earth now. We wear clothes. Where are yours?" And we started shining the spotlight up and down. We found them scattered up alongside the road. and called the ambulance, and they took him away. We used to call, it was part of the medical code of California, 5150, meaning a wacko. So they took him away under that. But things like that was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Definitely a unique little story. But he was from Venus, so you actually met an alien.
yeah.
That's pretty.
Very good.
I've never had that happen during an interview. You're the first person. I'm going to make note of that. No, it was great. No, if there's anything that, I mean, there's so much more we could cover, but I think it's.
I think I'm boring enough people.
It's interesting. I've also had the pleasure of following along on your newsletters, and that's great. And shared those, and that's important to do, and getting people, because you're pulling out of some of the Marines at the detachment.
Did you read my story about? Maybe I should put this on. What the heck? Statute of limitations is gone.
Okay.
It was in the last month's newsletter. My first Marine Corps birthday ball in Istanbul. Well, as I said, we only had 3 watchstanders, and as my luck has throughout my Marine Corps career, on holidays I had the duty. Well, I was miffed, and one of the staff sergeants, he was a watchstander, he's staff sergeant, he came home early to relieve me so I could go to the ball. Well, I was so mad. I just threw a fit, a childish fit. And I went upstairs, got in my civilian clothes, came down. He said, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm going out to the bar." We go bar hopping. He says, "You get up there and get your uniform on. You're going to the ball." I said, "No." I said, "The ceremony's over. The food's probably gone." I'm like, he said, "Corporal, that is an order. And you get up and get in uniform and you go to the ball." Well, I couldn't refuse him. He was a staff sergeant. I was a corporal. So what did the Marines say? Is, "Aye, aye, staff sergeant." And I'm gone. I walked in there, and one of the secretaries from the consulate was on the dance floor dancing with this Navy lieutenant. Well, this Navy lieutenant was the assistant naval attaché at the consulate. The naval attaché, the main guy, was a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps. So anyhow, I walked in, and this secretary, she was dancing with him, and she just dropped him like he was a pile of dirt, and came running over to me and hugged me. And there was nothing going on between the two of us. Don't get me wrong. She was just glad to see me. And she came over and she hugged me and all that, and dragged me out to the dance floor. and trying to get me to dance. I never was a dancer, Dina can tell you that. And anyhow, the party was still going on. It wasn't like I thought it would be. And they had replenished the buffet table and everything. And so I walked out and I'm starting to get stuff to eat. And on the other side of the buffet table, there was a 2 lines, one on either side, was this Navy lieutenant. Well, he's ticked off because she dropped him. And I think he had something more on his mind than just dancing anyhow. And he started bad-mouthing the Marines. And he said something like, "You're just a bunch of prima donnas." I don't know. He says, "That's all you're worth." Well, don't get me wrong. I'm still in a bad mood from my little episode back at my duty station. I'm still in a bad mood about that. I swear to God, and I mean, don't try this at home. I jumped over that table and I grabbed a hold of that lieutenant and I started wailing him big time. Well, my boss and his boss, that lieutenant colonel, fortunately, come up and drug me away. Well, I could have gone to the brig for a few years for that. Well, charges were never placed because, first of all, everybody heard him. What he said to me, and that was unbecoming. Conduct unbecoming an officer and a gentleman. So that saved me, so no charges were pressed. And the thing about it is, my boss restricted me to a 3-block radius around, for the next 2 weeks around the consulate. But that was okay because all my favorite restaurants and favorite bars were within that 3 blocks. So, and he knew that too. So
oh, that's a good story.
That was another.
Did you ever run into that fella again?
Oh,
No.
Oh,
okay.
No. Oh, he probably would have shot me if he could.
Whoa.
Oh, and the reason, well, he wasn't very liked anyhow. The reason he was the assistant naval attaché, he was a pilot. He wrecked 3 planes, all due to pilot's error. They took him out of the air wing, and he ended up, I guess I was the only place, a hole they could find to put him, hide him away in Istanbul someplace. And so...
That's a good story. He probably wouldn't want to hone up to it anyway.
No,
I think he's probably wanting to forget it. And for you, it's a funny story that you...
Well, you can read the whole story. It was in last month, November issue.
Yeah, okay, no, that's great. Well, I think we can, unless there's something you want to ask me, but otherwise, let's wrap it up for today, for right now.
No.
And it's really been interesting. It's been entertaining.
I'm starting to run out of steam anyway.
Oh, no, that's it. Yeah, you need to, recharge your, and you got so much the paraphernalia here, I need to go look around. But anyway, thank you very much for it. And like as I've told you, and we'll share this with your family, I'll give you a copy. I will submit this to the Library of Congress, to the Veterans History Project, where you will then be, get your collection, and it is forever, which means family, you have kids and grandkids if you want to add to it. They have questions for you. It's just for me, it's a wonderful way to have your family remembered as a legacy. And kids can sit and listen in your own voice and hear all the interesting stories. So thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you going out of your way and coming all the way to the boondocks of Hiram.
To Hiram. I think I didn't say we were in Hiram, Georgia. I think I left that out. I felt like I was leaving something out. But
that's worthwhile leaving out. Who wants to go to Hiram?
Hiram, it's my first time here, so it's kind of a big deal.
Well, I'm still in love with Beaufort, South Carolina.
I can hear that. And like I said, I hope you mentioned the Marine group, so stay in touch with them. And I think that's great that you're doing the newsletter. And there's a lot of young Marines that need the experienced Marines to kind of take them under wing or be there, for them. So, and being a DI is also quite unique. So
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you also for all your service and just fascinating. We'll have to.
Well, whenever anybody ever thanks me for my service, my first reply is, "It was fun. It was great. Thank you for thinking about me."
Well, that's good.
Well,
That's good. That's, you know, you're fortunate, and so that's really it is good to know, and you know that, and also how you carried on with your service, because you dropped out of high school, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's also a great success story, because not everybody, it's not the end all, you know, and you made something of yourself and applied yourself, and look what you're very successful. You're made an uncle very proud. So thank you very much. I'm going to end it for now, and we will be in touch. So thank you. And thank your wife for also the hospitality. So,
Sorry.